Now she has to pick. Like, say, where am I going to get value for money and get the... Like, no, obviously, Pick and Pay, good quality. She's going to buy Pick and Pay almost every time. It's worse today because she'll walk past Tando's spaza shop and go to Abdul's spaza shop, who's not even South African, was not an oppressor. He's a Mafigizolo who's, that's the decision they make, that value for money. I will go to China Mall and buy this t-shirt. Value for money, good quality. I know what I'm getting. I'm going to buy from Mlungu there.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to the ballot where we're meant to be voting for, like buying water, lights, a functioning economy, things that work, good schools. Even when they have a little bit of money, I can study in the township, but if I get a little bit of money and I have to pick black school, white school, oh boy, I'm out. And how do we reconcile that? Because that's one of the tough mirror exercises for black people who have given you this nice story. Yeah, but white people won't share, and quotas are the reason we have Siya Kolisi today, and BEE is how you're like, okay, white people are a problem. I hear you. But why do you keep
How about people
buying
don't
from
share?
them? No, of course. That's the
How about
tribalism
people-
argument.
I think this is, tribalism aside, you throw me a little bit, but the one concept was, like, let's go out for Chinese food. Should we even be saying that? That's where we're getting. I think, part of it is, how do we see through it? It's part of it. How do we see past that and go, I want to buy food. Why would I buy here or there? Not why would I buy from a Jewish concern versus a local or a foreign operator, that's local, right here, informal. Why, I think we've got to, part of it is, part of the proactive approach to it. Again, easy for me to say, right? Dealing with white privilege is one of the most interesting concepts, because 99% of the people I push on that will argue that they were never privileged.
Mm.
They in fact immediately recoil and go, you get very big eyes and go, what do you mean by privilege? I wasn't privileged, or I've worked for what I've got, I've built this myself, da-da-da. And they miss the fact. They miss what it means. In fact, again, I'll take you a little bit away and then I'll come back to it, because it goes back to the cage even. I don't think that those questions, that concept, even that different. And we're back to who put the cage, and we're back to, who are we going to and why? This is a cage, that's not. And maybe I'm not being particularly pointed, but the concept or the question I ask a couple of my colleagues just to really get the conversation going and possibly be a little bit of a fire starter is, typically of my white colleagues, I'll say, have you dealt with your white privilege? And you get a really interesting reaction.
Mm.
It's very uncommon to find people that will engage properly there. You've got to calm them down first and then talk about, what am I actually getting at? Do you understand someone had one opportunity? I had two. There's two doors. I could take both. You could take one. That's privilege. And it breeds entitlement.
That is true.
Breeds entitlement. And a large part of the economically free, white, black, Indian, and colored, sit in an entitled space. So they don't enter the fight because they're entitled.
Yes.
They're not going to give up on that because it's easy. That's why we have wokeism and things, because how many poor people do you know talking about how they identify in terms of the pronouns? Very, very few, I would imagine. Sure. I don't have that many conversations, but I try.
Yeah.
And then my favorite question for my black colleagues across the continent is, can a white man be an African? And it is amazing the responses I get. Your culture is Zulu, right?
Yes. Oh, I used to be, but yes. I was raised Zulu.
So what do you now?
I've left. It's a conversation for another day.
You keep sidestep. You're a very good sidestepper, by the way.
But let's go with Zulu. That's my heritage. That's my family.
No, it's a concept, in terms of landing something there. Most of my Zulu colleagues will say to me, where were you born? You go, yeah. And then you're an African. Really? I didn't expect that from a warrior type human, steeped in this culture, who we fought each other and others our whole history. Yeah, so I didn't expect that most of the time, but I'm generalizing, right?
Sure.
In Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, I've typically got no, not so much. And that's quite interesting because the dynamic in Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and the like is typically quite welcoming. There's many more years of independence. They've sorted out a lot of that. I don't want to say they've sorted out a lot of their own value, their own integrity. Who am I? Who do I identify as? I'm a Nigerian. This is my country, and I've had that independence since the 60s. And there's less. Just go over to Lesotho, and you will be welcomed in to do business by and large. Whereas locally, South Africa, we're still in this space of, and I understand it. People don't share. People don't do the right things. People given half a chance will corrupt it, white or black, Indian or colored. Given half a chance in this country, we go the wrong way. We make the wrong decision. So,
do you believe in democracy?
Do I believe in democracy? It's a structure and a system, a bit like capitalism and communism. I think they actually passed their sell-by dates. I think they're done. I do believe in the concept. Benevolent dictatorship, for me, seems to have better traction.
So the benevolence is a gamble. You're playing the lottery. You hope.
This is the problem, right?
The dictatorship is what you will get.
Democracy is going to apparently deliver better than that. It's not going to deliver a dictator. The benevolence is a gamble.